May 22nd. That is the day that Vault of Glass is going to be making its debut in Destiny 2. This is the first time since Age of Triumph in the end of Rise of Iron that we are seeing the return of an old raid into the game. Hello everybody, my name is Tex and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over all of the encounters in Vault of Glass, a general strategy guide for people that might need a refresher, and some changes that might be happening with each encounter going into the Destiny 2 experience. This video is not going to be covering speculation for what the challenges might be for day 1. It is just going over the mechanics that we know are going to be in Vault of Glass and the mechanics that might be added in Destiny 2. The very first quote-unquote encounter is opening the vault door. All you really need to know for this encounter is that there are 3 plates, one on the left, one on the middle, and one on the right, that need to be defended from increasing waves of Vex. As long as the plates are active, the spire in the middle of the map will start to build up, and then once it has been built up for long enough, it will open the vault door. During these waves of Vex, there will be some Minotaurs called Praetorians that may, in Destiny 2, be overload champions that need to be taken down before they touch the plate. If they touch the plate, it will instantly deactivate it and you'll have to reactivate it by standing in it. This loses you precious time on building up that spire, as when all 3 plates are not active, the spire will actually deconstruct itself, so it's an increasing amount of lost progress. This encounter is very easy. I don't see very many people having very many issues with it. It is very, very simple. After traversing a little bit of an in-between area that's not quite a jumping puzzle, you'll come to the area where we are going to be having the next 3 encounters, the Templar's Well. The Templar's Well essentially consists of 3 lanes surrounded by a series of floating platforms. On these platforms will constantly be spawning hobgoblins that you must kill, otherwise they will very easily snipe you down. At the very front of each lane there will be a conflux. These confluxes must be defended from increasing waves of Vex. If any 4 sacrifice themselves on a conflux, it will cause a wipe. There are 3 waves of confluxes. The first having only 1 conflux in the very middle, the second having a conflux on the left and right, and the third having a conflux in all 3 places. I highly recommend splitting up your fire team into 3 teams of 2 to constantly defend each different conflux. Additionally, in between each wave of confluxes, there will be fanatics that spawn. These special fanatics will drop a AoE of green goop when they die. If you touch this green goop, you will be marked for negation, and periodically the Templar will do a ritual of negation that instantly kills anybody that is marked for negation. You can get rid of your mark by touching the cleansing plate in the center of the room. There's a limited number of cleanses per fire team though, so try to not get affected. After all waves of confluxes are cleared, you move on to the second part of this encounter, which is oracles. There are 7 oracles that spawn in the arena. 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and 1 in the middle. These aesthetically look very similar to pretty much all Vex architecture, glowy box things that you've seen in the past, in case you haven't seen oracles before. There are 7 waves of oracles. Each wave will have more oracles in the wave, and if you do not destroy all of the oracles, the entire team will be marked for negation, and if you don't cleanse at the plate in time, you will wipe. Additionally, if you miss an oracle and are marked for negation, then the entire wave will restart itself after you cleanse. I recommend splitting up your team into 2 teams of 3, 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and then make sure that everyone keeps an eye on the center oracle. This allows each individual person to be responsible for 1 oracle, and then everybody can keep their eye on the center. Once you are done with the oracles, you will get a loot drop, and finally we get to move on to the first boss fight, the Templar. Templar fight introduces the Aegis, which is the relic that will be used for the entire rest of the raid. The Aegis has some fundamental mechanics that we need to go over first. You can attack with it and ground pound with it, but this is not the primary function. This is mostly for self-defense. The primary function is the guard, which will create a bubble around you that removes any Vault of Glass related debuffs from your team. This includes Marked for Negation and another debuff that we will go over in a later encounter. The second thing you must know is that if the Aegis is dropped at any point for about 5 or 6 seconds without being picked back up, it will wipe the entire team. The third thing is the super. Over time, the Aegis will generate its own super, and then once you use it, it will fire a projectile. This loops us back around to the Templar. You must use the super from the Aegis to break the shield on the Templar, and this starts the damage phase. Throughout the damage phase, the Templar will constantly try to teleport around the arena. There are 6 different places he will try to teleport. There's 2 on the left, 2 in the middle, and 2 on the right. You can block these teleports by standing in the ring that show where he's trying to teleport to, and doing so actually increases the duration of damage phase. Additionally, the Templar will constantly be trying to spawn oracles during the encounter. If you do not kill these oracles, they will mark the entire team for negation, and even during damage phase, the Templar will be constantly doing the ritual of negation, which will wipe your team. This can be counteracted by either killing the oracles or cleansing your team with the guard function of the Aegis. My recommended strategy for this encounter is to break the Templar's shield and then have your entire group up around the Aegis user. The Aegis user will be responsible for clearing the debuffs on the entire team whenever the oracles apply the ritual of negation. What this allows you to do is essentially ignore the oracles and focus all of your energy into DPS on the Templar. Another strategy is to have 1 or 2 players responsible for killing all the oracles, having the Aegis player be responsible for blocking teleports, and having the last 3 or 4 players focus on DPSing the boss. This is a bit riskier but a bit faster of an option for killing the Templar. Either works, but it is up to your team on which you want to do. After the Templar is dead, the gate at the back of the room will open, giving way to a very large drop into the next area, the Gorgon's Labyrinth. You can also go through the tiny little cave entrance on the left side of the complexes to make your way down to a secret chest that then feeds into the Gorgon's Labyrinth. The Gorgon's Labyrinth is filled with a bunch of taken-looking harpies that, if they see you, will kill your entire team after about 10 seconds. These harpies must be avoided. Doing anything that creates any noise, such as shooting a weapon, double jumping, or throwing grenades or using abilities, will attract their attention. You need to avoid the Gorgons and make your way to the exit of the labyrinth. The recommended path is highlighted on the map on screen. After you make your way through the labyrinth, there will be a small jumping puzzle, and you finally make your way to the next encounter, the Gatekeepers. The Gatekeepers is the most complex encounter so far, but it is quite easy to understand once you get a grasp of it. Essentially, the main room has 3 different versions of itself. The present, which is the one you initially start in, the past, which is linked to the right portal, and the future, which is linked to the left portal. You start off the encounter by killing the Hydra that is named Gatekeeper in the very center of the room. After doing so, you will also want to kill all the Vex that spawn near the portals, and then you want to split up your team into 2 teams of 3. The goal of this encounter is to retrieve 2 Aegises from both the past and future versions of this room. This can be done by sending people into the portals, killing the Gatekeeper inside, and then bringing the Aegis out. To do this, you must stand on the platforms next to each portal and defend them from Praetorians to keep the portal open. This can best be done by splitting into 2 teams and having one team go inside while the other team defends the plate. After the first Aegis is brought into the present version of the room, most of the team needs to go focus on the other portal and bringing the other version of the Aegis into the room. But at least one player needs to be focused on defending the conflux that then spawns. At the very front of the room, there will be a series of spawning Vex that will constantly try to be sacrificing themselves on the conflux in the very center. If they are not killed before they sacrifice, they will wipe your team. After the second Aegis is brought in, this is cranked up to 11, where now there will be Minotaurs coming out of the portals that are now permanently open. The entire team must defend the center conflux from any enemies and keep it from being sacrificed on until the encounter ends when all of the Aegis is despawned. This brings us into our final encounter, Atheon. Atheon combines some of the mechanics from the entire rest of the raid. He will start by spawning and idling for a little bit before teleporting 3 random players into either the past or future version of the room. It is these players' responsibility to call out which they have been teleported to, so that the people that are not teleported can open up the respective portal. While inside either the future or past versions of the room, you will get a slow debuff called Creeping Darkness that will slowly make your screen turn black over time. This effect can be reversed and undone by the cleansing effect of the Aegis. One of the people inside will have to pick up the Aegis and constantly be cleansing their teammates, while said teammates kill a series of 7 oracles. These 7 oracles can be killed while making your way towards the portal exit of the room. After all 7 oracles are destroyed, the entire fire team will be given a buff that increases damage versus Atheon and massively increases your ability regen speed, including supers. The recommended DPS strategy for Atheon is to all stack on your Aegis user in the center platform and use the guard function to make sure that not only is everybody cleansed from being inside the room, but also to protect the entire fire team from Atheon's onslaught while they damage the boss. Once Atheon is dead, the raid is over. Congratulations, you've gotten your loot. That said, this is the end of the video. I hope this was helpful or informative. This was more intended as a refresher towards people that are generally familiar with the mechanics or have heard of the Vault of Glass before. If you have no idea what Vault of Glass is and this wasn't very helpful to you, I highly recommend going and checking out Dato's old guides. They're even relevant now, still, all the way 7 years later. That said, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed, liked, and especially shared this video. It really helps me out, and I'm trying to grow my channel here. That said, thank you all for watching. Your viewership is more than enough for me. See y'all in the next one. Ciao.